So hello everyone and welcome to my channel. I'm Luke and here on this channel I talk about perfumes, fragrances, scents, focusing on vintage, designer and classic scents. But in today's video, my topic is going to be blind buying, the pros and cons of blind buying, what makes a successful blind buy, how to blind buy, and I'll be discussing 6 different perfumes from my collection that were blind buys and successful blind buys actually. And I want to talk about a different aspect of blind buying with each of these perfumes. So why do we even blind buy? Well, sometimes it's the question of availability of a certain fragrance. And this one I find is very hard to come by in a physical perfume shop. My local department store has bottles of this, but they don't have a tester, so I did have to blind buy this one. But you just have to make an educated guess. You have to know what kind of perfume you're blind buying. You have to do your research on it, but that's still not a guarantee that the blind buy will be successful. But as I looked on Fragrantica and as I listened to some people reviewing this perfume, and they talked about it being similar to Angel, I was pretty positive that this would be something that I would end up liking, and I do actually really enjoy it. I absolutely love this. This was one of my best purchases of 2024, and I love it to bits. It smells a lot like Angel, but it's nowhere near as sharp and obnoxious as Angel. This is a nice, sweet, fruity patchouli gourmand perfume. I really love it. So this one, if you're an Angel lover and you want something a bit softer, I do consider this a somewhat safe blind buy, but I would not recommend blind buying anything, obviously. So if you blind buy something, it's at your own risk. My second point would be that blind buying is a very exciting process. And it's a process that I personally really enjoy, and it is a lot like gambling, I'm not going to lie. The surprise factor, the excitement, waiting for the package, placing an order, and then kind of researching the notes, watching all the videos on YouTube. It's a very exciting process for me. And then if you're buying cheaper fragrances, the risk is much lower as opposed to buying expensive niche fragrances, which influencers kind of convince you to buy a $200 or $300 fragrance just on a whim because you feel like you're in a spendy mood. And I stopped doing that completely. I still blind buy, but I try to make an informed decision, and if possible, I test a perfume before buying. And the fragrance that I was really excited when I ordered it was this one, Mon Parfum Cristal from Micallef. I bought this in January. It was on sale. It was only about 39 euros, and I decided to just go for it because why not? It was so affordable, and even if I didn't like it, I can sell it for at least 39 euros and get my money back. My point being that price is also a very important factor when you decide to blind buy something, and availability of course too. This was not available for me to test anywhere. So I took a chance, and when you do that, you risk winning or you risk losing. That's just the way it is. And just to tell you a bit about this perfume, if you can still find it, this is a lovely rose caramel vanilla perfume. It's absolutely delicious. It reminds me of Armani C, the original one and the intense one, but it does have a bit more caramel, so I do really enjoy wearing this. It is quite strong. You only need about 3 sprays. So if you can find this for a good price and you like that very sweet gourmandish DNA of Armani C, go for this one. As I talk about this next perfume, Allure Sensuelle from Chanel, I want to give you some tips on safe blind buying. So I did try this perfume back in maybe 2012, but I didn't really remember what it smelled like. But I was extremely curious to smell it, and when I saw a bottle on a second-hand website, I just had to have it. And I saw the fragrantician, Gabby. She talked about it, and our tastes really overlap, so I knew this one was going to be a successful blind buy. And I'm absolutely pleased that I did, because it's become one of my favourite Chanel perfumes, and I really love that patchouli in the base. This is just absolutely gorgeous, and I think I need a backup bottle. So why did I know that this was for me? Well, I know my tastes. I know what I like. I know the House of Chanel. I know their DNA. And there was a 99% chance that I would end up loving this one because I love everything in the notes. I love the accords. I love the perfumes this gets compared to. And I trusted a friend who talked about this. But this kind of thing takes years of experience, years of smelling perfumes, familiarizing yourself with different perfume brands. I would never blind buy from a brand that I've never heard before and I know nothing about. That would be too risky. But Chanel, I don't know. They're older fragrances. I love all of them. So this was not a risky blind buy. So I guess my tip to you is that you really have to know your tastes and you have to do your research. And even then, things can go wrong and you can still end up hating the perfume. So again, blind buying is a gamble. So the next perfume, which was also a blind buy, is Giorgio Beverly Hills, and this is the Eau de Toilette, I believe. And this one was also recommended to me by the fragrantician, and she did a video on tuberose fragrances. She absolutely loved this one, and I also love quite a few fragrances from that video, so I knew that I would probably also enjoy this one. And this one gets compared to the original Boucheron by Boucheron from the 80s, from the late 80s, which I do love. I have a 10 milliliter decant, also sent to me by another friend, and our tastes really overlap, so I knew I would enjoy this one. And when I got it, yes, it was maybe a tiny bit synthetic, but I do absolutely love this. If you love 80s florals, if you love tuberose, this one is also a nice, cheap blind buy. But again, it can go wrong because it does have this synthetic feel, especially in the opening. So this is not something I would advise anyone to blind buy, but you can be irresponsible like me and do it anyway. So my point here is that you have to decide whether you listen to other people's opinions, who you listen to, who you trust and who you don't trust. And you have to be very careful with influencers who tell you that you need this, you absolutely need this, and you need to use their link, their code. Don't do that. Only trust someone who has gained your trust. And even then, that's no guarantee that you'll actually like the perfume. And just to make something crystal clear, because I did talk about Gabby and influencers almost in the same sentence, Gabby is as honest as they come and she has no interest in selling you anything. She doesn't do PR, she doesn't do anything like that. And speaking of influencers, just recently I've done a video on influencers and their crooked ways, exposing quite a few kind of insider details. So do check it out. So the final issue that I want to talk about is probably the most obvious one, and it's discontinuations. Perfumes get discontinued all the time. Nowadays, companies are churning out new releases like there's no tomorrow. Every month, there's 15 new releases from 5 different brands, and I can't really keep up with them anymore, but that also means that their older fragrances that we love get discontinued all the time. So should you blind buy something just because it's discontinued? Should you go on eBay and overpay for something just because it's discontinued? That's the question that I face every single day because I keep looking up discontinued perfumes on eBay and I really want some of them, especially mostly vintage ones. And here I've got one that I bought back in December, and I did get this in a bundle. It was very, very cheap because the person selling it didn't know what they had. This is Venezia by Biagiotti, and this is a discontinued gem. This is a very small bottle, a 10 milliliter one, but the big bottles of this go for around 200, 300, even 400 on eBay. This is extremely expensive, and I'd wanted to try it for years. So will I do that again in the future? Will I overpay for something? Will I splurge on something that I haven't tried before just because it's discontinued, just because it's popular? So if I see a bottle of Midnight Poison for, say, 150 euros, will I blind buy it? Honestly, I would maybe 2 years ago, but now probably not. Because just because something is popular and iconic and well loved in the perfume community and rare and has this status of a unicorn, That's a terrible reason to blind buy something, to spend 200, 300 on a bottle of perfume you probably know nothing about. You only know about it because it's popular. That's just not good enough for me, and it's not how I roll anymore. So I think we can wrap up here. Please let me know your thoughts on blind buying down in the comments. I'm not one to do a 30-40 minute video. I wouldn't want to bore anyone to death. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next one. Bye.